Okay, my beautiful friends, I'm gonna be honest. I've done this video a couple of times now because it can be a touchy subject. And I really want to make sure that I'm speaking clearly. So I'm just gonna channel here. This video is specifically about healing our hatred and our anger against the masculine energy and the masculine external in our reality. The point of this video is to make peace with men and to make peace with our own masculine energy, is to find internal balance in ourselves and therefore more energy, find the balance of our feminine and masculine. But really, we can do that simultaneously as finding peace with the masculine and the men in our lives, okay? Or those identifying as men. And to clarify, I am a woman, right? This is coming from a woman's perspective. Also, take or leave whatever doesn't sit with your intuition about this video. But this is something that I'm super crazy passionate about, this topic, because I have just had so many life experiences, so many conversations around this, and especially recently, which is what has inspired me to make this video. I have one friend that's going to therapy because she's trying to heal her masculine wound to actually be able to show up in her marriage. I have another friend who is just talking to me about how she's exhausted in her masculine, all of these different things. And I've also been talking to men. I just talked to a man last night who was like, we don't live in a patriarchy, we live in a matriarchy now because the women are trying to conquer the men. And there's so many different stances that we could possibly take in this, and I'm just going to explain mine. And to start this video off, my personal stance is that I ideally want us to be equal, and I feel equal because I don't want the patriarchy to crumble and then the matriarchy to conquer, okay? Because then that's still the same imbalance, and then I would be sitting here talking about healing our hatred towards the women. I want us to be equal and to give each other space to be who we are. However, being who we are isn't like men be men and women be women. Yes, we can honor the strengths and the weaknesses of each, but it's also about balancing our own internal feminine and masculine, okay? I walked around most of my life very in my masculine, like baggy clothes. I was in a male-dominated career. I was lugging a bunch of heavy equipment, wearing a tool belt and work gloves up hills and mountains. And I was just like, I just wanted the world to see how masculine and strong and purposeful and successful I was. You know, all these characteristic traits that we can sometimes push to the masculine. And I didn't even realize how exhausted I was for a long time, okay? And what I was doing is I was almost draining my masculine energy, trying to fully be going 10 million miles an hour fuel-wise in my masculine energy, and I was suppressing my feminine. I was not allowing my full self to be. And of course I was doing that for a reason. I was doing that because I was perceiving that we live in a patriarchy, and I didn't feel equal. I felt lesser than, I felt small, I felt weak, I felt sad, I felt like if I didn't run full force with my masculine energy towards the fucking wall, then I was gonna get put in a small, tiny home and be told I had to sacrifice my needs for the needs of those around me for the rest of my life, and I was just gonna get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I tried to get as big as I fucking could, which in my reality, that subconsciously meant becoming masculine. Okay, and so it's so funny because, you know, I'm aware of who I am today, and I am so feminine. I'm a feminine woman, but I am a very wonderful balance of both. Of course, I think I'm wonderful because I'm biased. I'm me. I hope you think you're wonderful too. But my point is that I was fucking exhausted, okay? And so I remember I was filming a documentary in India. We were gonna trek the Himalayas. I was gonna lug the camera over my shoulder, all the rare things. And I was having a conversation beforehand with a man that I was working with, and I forget what even sparked the conversation, but we started debating the feminine and masculine, and I was like, let's go. Like, okay, I'm down to debate this. Like, I'm not shy about this, and I'm not, you know, trying to run over him with the topic, and he's not trying to run over me. We're having a really nice conversation. And what he made me realize was he's like, I want to be the woman. He's like, I want to be the fucking woman. He's like, there's all these women running around who don't want to be women anymore and don't want to hold the woman role, and that's fine. He was like, I'll be a stay-at-home dad. That sounds awesome. He's like, I'm exhausted trying to make the money and trying to have a purpose and trying to fulfill my destiny and be successful and all of these things. And mind you, at this point, I was very successful. I had already exhausted myself for many years. It's like we kind of have to exhaust ourselves of seeking what we think we want in order to actually see what we truly want, okay? And so there's nothing wrong with you being like, I'm gonna stay in my masculine. I'm gonna keep pushing and striving because I wanna have a purpose, of course. But we all can have purposes, and that's what the balance of the feminine and the masculine is about. And so the thing that he kind of dumbstruck me with in this conversation was he was like, resting, which LOL, being a stay-at-home mom is not resting, but being a nurturer, loving your family, getting to watch your children grow, getting to love your husband and your partner, whoever that is, isn't that bad of a gig. And I was over here trying to run away from that because I thought it was awful, because the world was telling me it was awful, because now we're in this balance of the patriarchy, but the matriarchy coming. And I just wasn't making my own opinions. I was still ingesting and creating myself to be the opinions of that external world. And at that point too, I could see that I had already given myself permission and allowed myself to have a purpose, allowed myself to be strong, allowed myself to be successful. And mind you, I had spent almost a decade in a completely male-dominated industry of the film industry and had become very successful, very liked, very well-known, very held up. And so, of course, that boosted my freaking ego. Of course, that made me feel like, oh, my masculine is great, and I do have purpose and success and all of these things, right? All the things that I was originally striving for when I went through that. So I had already put in a bunch of energy towards that. I had already had fulfillment in that, okay? And that's why I was able, finally, then I was able to see, wait a second, I have been carrying myself like a man, running myself exhausted like a man, trying to be strong physically, all these things like a man, only letting my masculine out, just suppressing my feminine, and I am exhausted. I am so tired. And I just it just hit me. And so, we end up trekking the Himalayas. I'm sitting on top of the mountain in India, and I have my oracles with me. I love my oracle deck. I have this one specific deck. It's great. It's called Sacred Rebels by Elena Fairchild. Highly recommend. Alana Fairchild. Anyways, highly recommend her decks and that specific one. And so I pull this card that's called Softly, Tender Touch or something like that. I had never pulled this card in this deck for like a year and a half. Never pulled this card. I pull this card and it's talking about how fucking wise the feminine way is. How, I'm really cussing in this one. I'm getting into it. How, yes, and when I say feminine and masculine, I'm not saying man and women. I'm saying the feminine energy, the masculine energy, which I have both, right? So I'm talking about my own feminine energy, my own masculine energy, or the external feminine and the external masculine energy of the world. I'm not saying that all men are this way or all women are this way, right? But so the masculine energy, when I'm in my masculine, I'm like climbing a fucking mountain. I'm like shoving, I'm pushing, I am forcing my way up, which can be exhausting. When I'm in my feminine energy, the feminine way, the feminine wisdom is to sit the fuck down, to rest, to love, to soften, and to open and create a space for what you want in your life and just to invite it in. And I just remember thinking, what the fuck have I been doing for so long? What have I been doing? For the past decade, I have been shoving myself and my career and my purpose and the way other people see me and trying to get validation up this goddamn mountain. I am exhausted. I'm so tired. I just want to put on a dress and a skirt and look cute and go to take a nap. Like, what in the world? And there's nothing wrong with me shoving things up a mountain. I still do it to this day, okay? Again, balance. And on that mountaintop, that actual physical, real mountaintop that I was sitting on in India, I just sat and I went into a meditation position and I just opened my energy body and I just called in everything I fucking wanted. And I felt so energized and so recharged and so alive and so myself. And again, we all have the feminine and masculine. We can all do this. And so we can choose, well, do I want to force myself up a mountain and keep shoving head on into trying to get this thing? Or do I want to sit back and create space for it and invite it in? And both are so useful in our internal reality, right? Sometimes I need to take action and I need to go open that door to make the thing that I want to happen. And sometimes I need to look internally and realize, oh, I have an energetic block and a belief that's keeping the energy of love from coming in. And I have to look at that and I have to breathe into it and I have to love it and nurture it. And I have to create space inside me so the love of that energy of love can come in, or energy of whatever you want, fill in the blank. And then it literally manifests and starts to come in into the physical reality too. This isn't just like an energetic thing. Then it's like love comes into my life, like a literal person, you know? So was just a really mind-blowing moment. And I look around and so many women and female identifying people can do this, where they just are so in their masculine and they're so exhausted because they just desperately want to be seen as equal and loved and held. And we even relate being loved as being equal. Like, well, do we actually fully receive love, which is a feminine, you know, I mean, both love is masculine and feminine, but do we actually receive, which is feminine, love, if we're not also seen as equal, which we think that the world is, you have to be a man to be equal. And so it's like, even the desire to receive love, we're trying to become one with the man. We're trying to become a man to be able to receive equal love. It's just this exhausting cycle, okay? And so I had to take this in steps, okay? I had to like have this realization, wow, I have been only using my masculine energy and denying my feminine, even though I'm super mad at the patriarchy and I'm super mad at men, but I'm becoming a man because I want to be equal and seen equally by men and women. And I'm like, what kind of backward chaos is that? Okay. And then I realized, wait, there's actually a lot of wisdom in being feminine, and there's actually a lot of joy in being feminine. Like, why do I think nurturing my children or loving people or calling in what I want and creating space for it, or dancing or getting dressed up and putting on makeup, why do I think these things are bad? I love all of them. Okay. So it's like, and of course there's so much more to being a woman than just that. And I'm watching this reflect in my relationships too. Okay. Like, in a lot of relationships, I was fully in my masculine or very strong in my masculine. So I was dating really feminine men because there has to be a balance, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. You know, you could be a woman who's 80% her feminine dating a man who's 80% his masculine, 20% his feminine. You guys balance each other, right? Or you can be 50-50, or you can be 80-20 the other way. You know what I mean? There's no right or wrong way, but there does naturally draw polarity, okay? Because if you're both strongly in your masculine, you're just button heads. If you're both strongly in your feminine, you're both just kind of like floating and chilling and flowing and dancing, and which could be cool too, but you know what I mean? There's not a lot of polarity, like sexual attraction, emotional attraction, things like that. So because I was so strong in my masculine and unconscious of that, I was dating a lot of men that were very strong in their feminine, which nothing wrong with that. But that's not what I craved. Like, I wanted and craved a masculine man because I am naturally, as an individual, more feminine. I'm pretty balanced, but I like to be in my relationships more feminine and be held more in a masculine container. And so in a lot of my relationships, I felt dissatisfied because I felt like I had to be the man. I didn't know why, but I actually wanted him to be the man, which caused a lot of friction, right? When subconsciously, and here's the kicker, I didn't even realize how desperately I wanted to just surrender into a masculine energy, and not just a external relationship masculine energy, but also into my own masculine energy. Okay. And so what that looks like is I can still like see it happen regularly for myself. It's like I have more of a tendency to get masculine subconsciously because that's how I was for so long, that all of a sudden I'll be like, work will trigger me. I'll be like trying to do things and I'll be like, go, 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 have to keep going and keep pushing and keep getting things done, even if I'm sitting on a computer. And then I realize I'm exhausted and I'm like, oh, what am I craving? Why am I pushing myself at work? Well, because I'm craving safety and stability. Well, life is a never-ending rat race. Life is a never-ending to-do list. So that's, you know, by accomplishing things, I'm not actually going to get safety and stability. I'm just going to get a quick high. So, okay, I'm going to give myself safety and stability right now. How do I do that? Well, I can feel that I don't feel safe and stable, which is my masculine energy is like feeling shaky. And then therefore, we need a masculine container. The masculine is the container and the feminine is the internal experience in that, the flow, right? But we need structure. A river can't flow through the land without that structure of earth, that land holding it, okay? And so that's the masculine. And so my masculine was feeling unsafe and unstable, and so it was just fighting for its life and pushing ahead, and I was becoming exhausted. And therefore, because it's unstable and it's not a nice structure of safety, then my feminine's not flowing, and then I'm extra exhausted. And plus, I love my feminine. I love to be having fun in my feminine. And so in that moment, I was like literally in the car, and I was like, sit, breathe. I am literally going to like hug myself and call in my masculine energy. Imagine my masculine energy creating a nice, safe container around myself. And I am telling myself I am safe, I am loved, I am safe, everything is great. And I'm allowing that physical sensation to move through my body until I genuinely feel safe. And then it's interesting how present you instantly become. And then I start to feel my feminine flow come back, and I'm like, oh, there she is. Like, there's my playful self. And it's just as simple as awareness, okay? That's internally. Externally, how does it manifest in our relationships? And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about your dad, your grandpa, the grocery cart guy. You know, sit there and ask yourself, especially if you feel like you have anger towards men, who do you know that you feel like is just a really great man that you just like deeply respect? And can you find somebody that you feel like you 100% respect in your reality? Okay, now maybe compare that and ask yourself about women too. But that's harsh, right? If you can't, like, I had that realization at one point, like I was like, oh, I can't think of anybody that I feel like I just respect 100%. And then I came to realize there's this belief in me that I think all men are bad and evil. And I'm like, okay, I don't in this moment of my life think all men are bad and evil, but this is about uncovering these deep subconscious beliefs and bringing them to the light and healing them, okay? And I do want to talk about the fact that I understand why I was very angry as a woman for a long time. I don't want to just like push that aside and act like that doesn't matter. All of the generations of pain doesn't matter. So there's this concept called the feminine pain body or the female pain body. There's a whole section in Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, about it, and I highly recommend it. It's really eye-opening and wonderful. But the whole idea is that we have collective consciousness, and not just like our collective consciousness is one consciousness, but also like your gender has a collective consciousness, your culture, your ethnic group, your religion, all of these, your family, all these different things. And so it's like it's almost like this energetic blob that you can all kind of tap into and feel. And so women have a female collective consciousness, and there's masculine collective consciousness, and there's a lot of layers to this, okay? But stay with me. And so the feminine collective consciousness has what's called the pain body, and it's literally like the emotional part of our collective consciousness. And it is very connected to pain, okay? And it's like all of pain that women have ever experienced, specifically in this moment we're talking about from the masculine, is just kind of collected. And we can each individually tap into that. And like the feminine cycle, our period, have you ever noticed that, you know, you go to like an indigenous tribe ceremony, you go to do plant medicine, you go to walk into like a temple in another country, and a lot of them say that women on their period are not allowed to do this, not allowed to take the plant medicine, not allowed to come into the temple, not allowed to be a part of the sacred ceremony. And that used to trigger me so bad. I'd be like, what? This is my most feminine moment, and that's when you're telling me? This is my weakest moment, and that's when you're telling me I'm not allowed to be here? But here's what I've come to realize is that when I am on my moon cycle, when I'm on my period, and when I'm bleeding, I am so deeply tapped into that feminine pain body. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not the reason that I'm not allowed. It's like we become in our fiercest form. We become powerful, okay? We also become exhausted and tired and need assistance and nurturing, okay? But we become so fierce. And I do 1,000,000% believe that a lot of indigenous tribes had a time and a place for that to be honored. Like, indigenous women of the United States used to sit in the ground in a teepee together and bleed into the earth. And that's a whole nother video. There's a lot going on there that's really wonderful. But I do suggest giving your blood to the earth. And I can talk about that at a later date, or you can drop a comment below if you want to know why. But when women are bleeding, we are in our fiercest form. And I still don't necessarily agree that I can't go into a temple or participate in a whatever. But I do really deeply connect to the feminine pain body in this moment. And that's kind of my point. So we're just going to stick with that for now. That all my anger and rage gets triggered, which is wonderful. I love anger and rage. That shit's sacred, okay? We need to create time and spaces for that. But what happens is that not only am I super easily able to tap into all of my own anger and rage and pain from the suppression of being a woman, but I'm able to tap into the whole collective's experience of that, okay? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, okay? I'm actually saying that that's a really incredible thing to be honored. And in order to have healthy relationships with men and let them in and love them and heal this relationship, this experience with the masculine, I had to honor, and I would suggest you try to honoring your rage and anger towards the masculine, not trying to suppress it, not trying to push it down, not trying to act like it didn't exist, okay? There's what's called the marriage imbalance, and it's like this statistic that has been taken and is becoming more imbalanced today, but talks about how a man's likelihood of dying from a violent death, becoming depressed, becoming susceptible to addiction, all of these like difficulties statistically get lower when he is in a marriage. You know, his statistics of becoming poor, all of these things like literally lessen when he gets married, okay? However, for a woman, it's the exact opposite. A woman becomes more likely to die a violent death. A woman becomes more likely to be depressed, more likely to become susceptible to addiction, more likely to become poor and impoverished. All of these things. So I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to say that there is no reason to be angry, okay? Also, I do want to follow that up with the man probably sitting next to you, or the people that are in your life are not the ones that did that to us, right? Okay? But that doesn't mean that we don't have subconscious pain from the collective pain body and from this experience, okay? So again, there's no right or wrong. This is a touchy subject, right? So, but what I'm saying is that in order for me to have a healthy relationship with a man, because I'm a straight woman, I love men. And not only do I want to be in partnership and love so deeply my partner and my man, I want to be loved by him, but I also want to love my dad and my brother-in-law and my friends and all of these people in my life. I want to have deep, meaningful relationships with the other half of the population that just happens to have male genitalia. And I was hindering myself from that. I was hindering myself from one of my deepest desires, which is love. Especially in partnership, by holding on to the anger. And I'm not saying we're trying to let it go and push it out. I'm saying we're trying to freaking open it. We're trying to go into the anger. We're trying to feel it. We're trying to acknowledge it. We're trying to witness it. We're trying to experience it. And so what I had to do in one of my conscious relationships was like, and it wasn't even just in a relationship, it was like a multiple step journey. I had to first decide that I wanted to believe in true love. I wanted to believe in soulmates. I wanted to believe in love. I'm making the goddamn decision for myself right fucking here and now. I don't care what anybody else thinks about soulmates or love or, you know, partnership with a man. I am deciding that it's true and it's real because I get to decide my goddamn beliefs and it's what I want, okay? Step one. Step two was that I had to start to remember all of those awful, painful memories. And I swear to God, almost every woman I know, and probably a lot of men too, have had some sort of sexual abuse, have felt small, hindered by the masculine energy. And again, it's not because they're these awful people. We're both being socialized at the same time, okay? Even the men that inflicted sexual abuse onto me, I had to come to forgive at some point. Because also, that's a whole other topic, and you can watch my heal from sexual abuse video. But also, they, like, porn exists. Like, we're both taught the same thing, that women get abused and men abused, and then we act like that's okay and we all socially accept it, okay? So I am not trying to point fingers or blame anyone. All I'm saying is that if I want to love somebody deeply and I want to have a healthy, successful relationship in my life and I want to feel love and joy, I have to take responsibility for my own beliefs, my own anger, my own emotions, okay? And that's all I can do. And what I'm actually doing is I'm giving myself a gift. I'm opening myself to let the most incredible love in that I've ever wanted, but yet I've been subconsciously terrified of doing. So why am I terrified? Well, because I am carrying all these memories of all this pain that I've experienced from men, and I'm projecting that all onto every single man I see. Also, I'm carrying all this rage and anger, and I'm trying to act like it's not there because I might offend somebody or hurt myself or blame somebody. All of these things that were pushed down, we have to bring to light. And so I went on a long journey where I had to make peace with sexual abuse. I had to start telling people about my sexual abuse because that was healing for me. I needed to forgive those people. But also I needed to create space for my rage, okay? I was so angry and enraged, and bless my partner at the time for this. I was healing from a sexual abuse, and it would just hit me. It wasn't like I could really, I have a whole video on emotional releases, and those are wonderful, but I couldn't necessarily always plan for these ones. Sometimes I would just get triggered, and because I was working for like a year and a half, maybe even 2, to move this and release this anger, and sometimes it was so hard to access. Like in the beginning, I didn't even think I was angry. I was like, I don't have any anger. There's no anger. And that's the kicker. You just don't even know you're angry in the beginning. And so I just had to open this can of worms and just like wait for it to burst out, okay? Which, don't get me wrong, wasn't the most fun thing in the world, but oh my God, the biggest gift for myself. I'm so glad I did it. My whole love life has changed. My whole life has changed. And can you imagine carrying around that anger and rage and that pain and that distrust your whole life? Like, the only person you're harming is yourself. So do this gift for yourself if you relate to what I'm saying. And so throughout that 2-year experience, what would happen is my partner, bless his soul, he was a man, so he would be the one that would trigger me. And he knew that I was going through this. I was very open from the beginning. Hey, I'm healing from a sexual abuse. Sometimes I get really angry and I need space. I don't want to project my anger onto you, because you're actually the person that I love and you're actually trying to create a safe space for me and help me to heal. But you're probably going to be the person that triggers this. And so when I get in this space, I just need you to leave me alone, or be a sounding board for me to throw things at. But that's probably not actually healthy for our relationship. No matter what the man thinks he can do and he wants to hold that space for you, he probably can't, and he shouldn't. It's just going to be a mess. Go be alone and tell him, be like, leave the house. Like, I need the house right now. Like, this is one of those moments I need you to leave, and I'm not going to be able to say it very nicely very soon, so just please go. Or like, leave me in the room. And just freak the fuck out. Like, melt down, cry, sob, be angry, scream, be like, of course he left me, rah. Like, all those projections, all that anger, let it out, feel it, witness it, feel and witness that version of yourself that has been harmed. And also, you're not crying and raging just for yourself. You are crying and raging for your family, for generations of women, for the collective pain body, for women you probably don't even know, that you're not even related to. There is a lot, right? And so creating space for that, allowing that, honoring that, witnessing that, loving that, praising that, being like, we fucking went through it, and I love you, and I feel you, and your rage is sacred, and allowing that to come out is actually how we make peace with it, is actually how we heal it, is actually how we move that out of our being, look her square in the face and say, I love you, I see you, I've witnessed you, I've felt your pain, and then get to watch her walk away into the light and be dissolved and be healed and rest in peace. And then we get to face our partners and the men in our life and love them. not because we've suppressed it, but because we've faced it and we haven't projected it onto them. Because this is the other thing. This is why a lot of my friends are in marital counseling or in their own therapy around this, is because they just can't help but be assholes to their partner. And they don't even know why. They don't even want it. And it hurts them just as much as it hurts the partner. And it's just this cycle that we're in, okay? And so it's like, allow that rage to come out. Allow it to be witnessed and sacred and loved and honored, okay? There's a lot of points there. There's a lot happening, okay? But to kind of wrap up this bad boy, my overall message is that we are feminine and masculine. Our relationships and partnerships are feminine and masculine. The masculine is the safe, protective container. The feminine is the flow. I have both. You have both. We all have both. And we need both to be in balance in order for ourselves to be in balance and to be living our fullest expression and joyous, peaceful, most restful expression, most successful, whatever you want expression. But also, in order for us to be in relationships, like, I actually genuinely want to be a woman. I want to be in my feminine flow. I want to have children. I want to have a marriage. I love to cook. I love to nurture my people. But I also want to have a purpose. We all have to have purpose, okay? And so this idea of the relationships or the dynamics in a household where the man goes and works and the woman stays home, if that works for you, amazing. If the opposite works for you, amazing. Don't let me tell you how to live your life, okay? But just keep in mind that what can happen from the woman staying home is, yes, the children can have a better life, the man can have a better life, but she will sacrifice so much, or whoever decides to do that can end up sacrificing so much. And here's why. Because one of our biggest desires in life is to have a purpose. Just to have a purpose. It's like when somebody's at the end of their life and we treat them as if they can't do anything, the reason that they fight back so much on that is because you're telling them that they have no reason to live. They have no purpose, that they're helpless now. Like, that is like confinement, which is banishment, which is like one of the worst things we could ever experience in our reality. And so your dynamic in your household can be whatever you want. And for me, I personally would like to be able to be a very nurturing mother and take care of my family. But I also want my partner to do the dishes and cook me dinner sometimes. I want the household chores to be equal. I want to go out with my girls and let him stay at home with the kids. I want to have a purpose and fulfill and build a successful business too. Do I want to work 40 hours a week and split the childcare and the housework with my husband? No. But make your own reality, because you can. And just keep checking in with yourself. Are you allowing your masculine to be holding a container and your feminine to flow? And are we able to forgive the men in our lives? Not to make their lives better. Don't do it for them. Do it for you. And maybe we don't even do it. Like, life's complicated and sticky. I don't know if I've fully forgiven men as a collective in my reality. I don't know if I've fully forgiven women for whatever my subconscious thinks they've done collectively. But you know what I have done? Is I've forgiven myself. I've forgiven the angry, painful parts of myself that I try to tell were wrong and suppress down. I forgave that part of myself that tried and pushed so hard in her masculine for so long that she exhausted herself because she was just so sad and desperate to be seen as equal and loved. And I've held those parts of me and I've loved them and I've honored them and I've embodied them. I've integrated them. And therefore, I have deeply been able to release a lot of pain around the masculine, forgive it. And also, I've sat with a lot of affirmations with men, like specifically staring at a man in my life and witnessing all of their wonderful qualities. There's a whole other long conversation I could get into here about relationships and how we think that the partner will be the save-all, be-all, that they will make us whole and they will complete us. And that's not actually possible. Not one person can complete us, okay? Not one person can save us, can fulfill all of our needs. I'll make that another video. But my point here is that you are enough. You are already whole. You have everything inside of you, everything you want. It's all you. And we have to take responsibility, or we can. This is an invitation to take responsibility for the way we see men, the way we see women, the way we see ourselves. Are we taking on other people's beliefs and making those our own? I was taking on the belief that the patriarchy was the power and the equality, even though I hated it. I became it. And so really the conversation comes back to, how do we love ourselves, accept ourselves, forgive ourselves, and create space for everything inside of us? And that reflects in our relationships externally as well. This was a long one. I hope that all made sense. I kind of just was trying to put a lot of points in one, but I love you guys all so much. If you have questions, comments, concerns, objections, whatever, put them in the comments below. I send you guys, as always, so much love, and have a wonderful day.